What's up, guys? Today we're going to be going in and upgrading our Losi Pro-moto. We've done a couple upgrades so far with the Trail Hobbies triple clamps, the lower mounts. We did the hubs. We obviously went to Supermoto tires on here. We did the Mike Trick RC light kit. We got two pods up here and a tail light in the back. But today we're going to be addressing one of the major issues with the dirt bike, and that is the front brake. As you can see, ours isn't set up very well. And also the front brake tends to be a little weak. So we're gonna go in and install our Micro 99 in place of the stock servo. We're also going to be using the Micro shorty horn and a couple of these easy connectors. While we're in there, we're gonna be taking out the stock servo and throwing in our RA 500 just because we're going to go in there. It's gonna be awesome and have a lot more torque than stock. Inside the parts bag, you have the replacement adapter to go from 23 stock tooth to 25 tooth. You also have a piece in there to stiffen up the servo saver. If you're going to upgrade your servo, do both of those. I'm gonna go through it right now. Let's get after it. Alrighty, so what you're gonna wanna start by doing is go ahead and disassemble the dirt bike. So I'm starting by taking the rider off. You can go ahead and unbolt the two ends of his arms from the handlebars, and then you can lift him up and take him out. Then you're gonna wanna loosen the guy and take him off completely, and then you're gonna move on to front wheel disassembly. In order to take these off with the Supermoto hubs, you're gonna have to remove the brake caliper as you take the wheel off. Then you're gonna go through and remove both front forks. Remember, if you're running the aluminum triple clamps, you don't wanna tighten those down too much, or actually they'll have the internal shock spring stick. I'm removing both bearings here to get to the receiver and to the side plates on the actual bike. Once that is done, I'm going to take the front fender off, and then I'm going to go on to the front triple clamps and remove those so I can actually get into the servo mounting. You're gonna wanna go ahead and disassemble that front crash plate that we've all seen. That will allow you to lift the front neck of the bike up and out of the way so you can actually get to the servo. I took the handlebars off here to remove the triple clamps a little easier and make the access just a little easier on myself. I actually forgot a part I had to go get. I got grease all over my hands. So now we're actually removing the servo from the servo location and taking off the servo horn. Try to keep everything together with that because you don't want to reinstall that servo saver once it's already in there. It makes your life so much easier. So now what I'm doing in here is actually removing the plastic side plates so that way I can get to the receiver, get that out of the way so I can plug in the new servo after I DC the old one. If you're ever planning on doing a carbon fiber plate upgrade, at the same time that you're doing this would be a perfect time to do that as well because the whole bike is already apart and you're actually removing all of those pieces as well. As you'll see in here, I realized I missed one bolt in here, which caused me a ton of issues after the long run, but I finally got that loosened up so I could push the servo wires through the case and get that servo out of its stock location. Here I am grabbing the RA 500 and getting ready to install that into the stock location. The mounting holes and everything line up perfectly and it drops right back into the stock location perfectly. There's no issues. It's an exact fit and everything falls right in. At this point, my hands are exhausted, so I went to go get the DeWalt power driver, and now I'm gonna cheat. I don't know why I didn't do this from the beginning, but it makes everything so much easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and install that servo in there. reinstalling the catch for the servo wires, and now threading the servo wires through the plate. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that out. Now I'm moving on to the brake installation. So I have to remove that same side plate from the other side, so that way I can access the brake servo here. So I'm just going through and getting everything off. I admittedly took some stuff out that I didn't need to, but it was already off, so we are where we are here. You're gonna use a 1.5 millimeter driver to remove the mounts and then to remove the servo out of the stock location, and then you'll just fish it through the middle of the bike. Here I am grabbing out our Micro 9.9. I'm looking to see the orientation to make sure I keep the orientation of the new servo the same as the stock servo. And we're gonna go ahead and just thread that stock servo into the stock location, run the wires through the bike, and then get them connected into the receiver. The receiver is clearly labeled on what needs to go where, so it's easy to unplug something and then plug it right back in. I think it's actually labeled brake, so it makes that installation super easy. Now it's time to put everything back together so I can set my endpoints and set my zero trim for the steering servo. So I'm going through and installing the receiver back in. I'm putting the lower crash bar back in, and now I'm installing the plastic side covers. Just here making sure everything's lining back up and actually installing all of the screws in the correct location. A cheat for that is as you remove them, if you put them back into the stock location or you leave them in the part that they came out of, it makes it much easier to drop them back in versus searching around and figuring out if you need an 8 mil or a 10 mil or a 12 mil to go in. This just makes your reassembly time so much quicker. Here I am now turning on the remote so I can set zero out for the steering servo and making sure that is in the zeroed position. So that way when I install it, I don't have to worry about sub trim or anything like that. It's already perfectly mounted in. This little part gave me a little bit of challenge. I'm trying to take out the 23 tooth adapter and install in the 25 tooth adapter. If you have a vise and you're able to put the metal piece in the vise, the plastic piece will push out much easier. As you can see, I'm struggling here to try to do it in the studio where I don't have a ton of tools, but I got that in. And then you're gonna go ahead and just reinstall everything. I'm putting on the additional spring for the outside of the servo saver just to stiffen it up a little bit. I find the control is much nicer with a stiffer spring on it than it is stock, and that's how I've been running mine for quite some time. Go ahead and reinstall the triple clamps, and then I'm gonna go through the process of putting the front fender back on and then putting the forks on and then putting the front wheel on. You take it off the same way you put it back on, so that way there's no clearance issues and everything falls right back into place. Again, make sure when you're tightening these, you don't over tighten them. If you tighten them too much, it'll actually pinch the internal shock cartridge and it will not allow the front suspension to operate correctly. You definitely don't want that to happen. Here I am now reinstalling the brake cable. I start with the caliper, put it in the upper holder, attach it to the fork, attach it to the nameplate, and then I'm ready to start working on installing in our micro horn and the mount back in. I use the middle horn attachment to attach the easy screw attachment to. I think it's the best horn, and if you're gonna do the same thing, I would suggest that as well. Look at that steering. It is so much quicker and stronger than the stock servo. It's really nice to use. here I am just getting everything lined up. So you want to make sure the servo is in the neutral position and it's lined up. So that way you're not stressing the servo out, or you're not pulling on the brake too much, or you have the proper amount of throw. So you get full lock when you lock that front wheel up. The boss came in, checking on my progress, make sure I'm actually working here. See him? He's like, what's this man doing? Is he doing anything? Is he actually doing stuff? Now I'm just installing the bolt to hold the servo horn on so that way it doesn't fall off, and making sure everything's all set up. And then I'm just gonna go back through and do the official reassembly and get everything all bolted back up and together. And as you can see, you can finally see that My Trick RC tail light in there, and then you can see the front pods, which are an awesome look for running this thing at night. I'm just going through and adjusting trims and sub trims so that way I get a little bit of spin and it's not completely locked up and we're getting good brake at the same time. Alrighty guys, install is pretty much complete. I just wanted to take a second and show you exactly what we did here. So we went ahead and used our Micro 99, used the factory mount, and then what we did was we used our shorty horn and we used the Hobby Parks easy connectors. It mounts to the back a little easier than it does to the front. I tightened everything in here, and now this is actually what is going to stop us. So let's turn this thing on real quick, and you can see, let it initiate up, but you can see we're getting a ton of brake stoppage here, and now we actually spin. Let's bring this back a little bit so you can see it better. So it spins here, and then boom. Well, I barely hit that. Lock this up. So all programs into the stock channel. You still have your trim that's able to be set. You still have all of your stock settings. I'm going to put back on the side fairings and everything like that. We're going to head out to the parking lot and see if we can get some stoppies in. Let's check it out. All right, guys, everything's back together. Thing runs again. As you can see, we took out the stock steering servo and we took out the stock brake servo. We replaced the steering servo with our RAW 500. In the parts bag, like I said earlier, is the adapter piece you need to go from a standard 23 tooth spline to our 25 tooth spline. We replaced their brake servo with our much stronger Micro 99. I used our shorty horn and the easy connectors that are linked in the comments below. And as you can see, it spins better now. Still not great, but once we replace the caliper with the Trail Hobbies caliper that we've already ordered, this thing is gonna spin and be able to do stoppies, and we're gonna have a much better performing truck. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for the running video once we get the Trail Hobbies mount in. If you guys haven't done so, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notifications as soon as the videos are live. Thanks for watching, guys.